Hello, I'm LinkingX2 and welcome to the review of Live Sandbox and the T1 series. As usual, we're going over the pick and ban phase and focus on what the teams want and can achieve with their comps. Shortly for T1, they have swapped out quite a few players here. KeSpa for Elam, still closer time in the mid lane, and lastly Teddy for Gumayushi in the bot lane. Everyone has their own opinions about these changes, but that's not today's topic. So let's get right into it with game number 1. So, in the ban phase, we see they're starting with the Alistair here, following up with Lilia and Olaf for T1 here. So Alistair, of course, against effort here. T1 knows him fairly well, so they know he is capable of playing the champion to a great level. And, well, the other two picks here are obviously in Kroko's direction, as he has shown to be important for Live Sandbox play and has been playing quite aggressively so far. On the other side, Yone, Irelia and the Renekton, the first two are against Closer. Well, even in T1's Lost, he looks quite dangerous on these picks. And lastly, the Renekton, he's quite strange. And, well, we noticed that the Talia has not been banned for quite a while. So obviously T1 pouncing on the idea, blocking in the Talia for KeSpa here. So he's taking the disrespect, locking in the powerful pick. And with the jungle bans here on T1 side, the jungle pool is even more limited for Kroko. But the pool is quite large at the moment, so that should not be a main issue here. On the other side, Kai'Sa is locked in, the strongest AD carry at the moment. So in this trade at least, Sandbox is getting something positive here, and with the Udyr pick, I assume they thought of it as a functioning counter into the Talia, similar to the Hecarim maybe. Well, on his own, Udyr has been worse and worse. His farm speed has been getting better as they figure out better clear paths, but his impact in fights is just not on point, so it's very risky to try him out here again, and especially without his main partner, the Orianna, being locked already. So, on the other side for T1, the Camille and Orianna are being locked in. So Camille top lane blind for Kana, pretty powerful, one of the stronger top laners at the moment. Still, blind picking can lead to something like the Gnar, who is just with a little help from the jungler, a devastating matchup in the 1v1, especially with the new items, so it's not all too great to show this up front. And you have to somehow show something, right? Here jungler, and the AD carry is locked, so even if you answer with another AD carry here, you still have to show another position, which in this case could be the top lane, the support position, the mid lane, or anything. But here they have not elected any AD carry to counterpick the Kai'Sa, so they're showing both their solo lanes in this rotation, which is not too optimal. But in this case, T1 probably considered these two as takeaways, picking them from Sandbox away. So that's that. Taking the Orianna away from the Udyr, obviously very strong combination for many teams here. Lastly, for the first half, Sandbox is picking up the Gnar right before the next ban phase here, and we were expecting it, especially into the Camille. So with the Talia in top lane, KeSpa probably looking fine, but then again the Talia here prefers the bot side camps, so will stay most of her time in this direction. Kroko with the Udyr, while the bot side camps are also nice for him, he also obviously values the red side or the red buff side camps more, so him with the Gnar can attack the top lane here with Camille, and even though she is quite mobile with the slows and the stun setup, she can be chased down here. So for the Gnar again, I have to say Gnar is not as overpowered as or as strong as many teams point him out, but yeah, with most top laners being very comfortable with him, it's just very understandable that he's being picked up again and again, while he obviously is not the top tier pick in many matchups. Coming to the next ban phase, we see Azir and Seraphine being banned away from T1 here. So yeah, Azir, most teams besides T1 would not really play him, so that one is probably unnecessary here. Especially the matchup into the Orianna is also quite okay, so there's no really reason to ban the Azir here. For the synergy in Sandbox team with the Azir is also decent, it's not too outstanding, so yeah, it's not too necessary here. A Syndra ban could have been, yeah, something with, yeah, the Syndra into the Talia on Orianna. Not too great, obviously, but the isolated matchup here against the Orianna would have been a bit better. So yeah, maybe that's something to look out for against other players besides Fate, who has not shown too much priority on the Syndra so far. On the other side, the Samira and Aphelios have to go, so T1 has failed to elect the AD carry in the first phase, while they already have the Kai'Sa here on Sandbox side, so pinching the pool further down. Taking 2 away here is okay, not too impactful as there are still quite some options, but in terms of late game DPS, these 3 here are the main ones at the moment, so taking, well, all 3 of them away from Teddy here is something. A player like Teddy, though, obviously has a larger champion pool, so yeah, he's not too threatened by this. In the second phase here, we obviously, as you see, start with the Victor here. The Victor has been, yeah, gaining popularity around the world, popping up here and there in the LCK as well. Into the Orianna, obviously, yeah, there's nothing going on here. He has quite a bit weaker wave clear from early on and even later, but yeah, in contrast to her shotgun playstyle, his TPS, especially for later teamfights, is quite nice. With the Udyr, though, he is not helping him too much as the Orianna would obviously, but yeah, he can offer some follow-up on the stun with his W, but yeah, as a really fast Udyr is obviously out of range for anything Victor may offer, so that's, yeah, not the synergy the Udyr might have expected as he was locked in. On the other side, Leona Xayah rotation, something straight out of 2019. The Leona here looking at the more immobile champs here on the Sandbox side. And yeah, a decent pick in the meta at the moment. And yeah, it becomes even better if you look at what T1 is lacking. So T1 has no frontline here already elected, and the engage obviously is not there. So yeah, that's some improvement here. Also for the Orianna, this Leona pick is a bit better as a ball carrier and a bit more accessible than the Camille, who might not be at the fight or who might look for a flank, where Leona is obviously staying with her team. So yeah, the ball will be on her in many cases and it's easier. So yeah, the Xayah as well here, getting more protection for the AD carry here. There is no peel in T1's comp, so if some of the divers here in Sandbox team want to get at Teddy, he can just press R and be a bit more safer. Yes, engaging into Atalia and Orianna is already very difficult, but the added safety from the Xayah here can obviously help quite a bit for Teddy to do more DPS, even though Xayah does not have the largest range, which could be a bit problematic into the Victor with his zoning abilities. And then lastly here we get the Rakan, so into the Leona. That's a bit strange, as some say he counters her now with the item changes. In the past, though, it was regarded for the Leona to be a counter into the Rakan, and I personally still believe that to be true to a decent extent, especially in the laning phase, where the matchup is now, especially with the AD carries in consideration, in T1's favor. Later on, the Rakan, as we already talked about in previous videos, is a dive buddy with the Udyr, and they want to get into the enemy team, especially with the Shurelia's item from Rakan. The Udyr is further amplified in his diving and running abilities. His job will still be quite hard here. Again, engaging into the Taliyah is no great task for the Rakan. Her E is really messing him up and can lead to some near one-shots if he's not careful enough. So he needs vision pockets where he can engage from. Here in the jungle, maybe here getting behind T1 as they approach dragon fights. Or overall a lead for Sandbox would be very, very much needed here. Otherwise, engaging into this is, even for Rakan, quite dangerous. So overall here, T1 getting many of the meta picks of today's. Here, Taliyah, Camille, very strongly regarded, even the Leona in some cases. Obviously she's no Moonstuff support, but in the terms of the engaged supports, she's very high up here. So already electing a strong combination here for the top side, even though again Taliyah on blue side is not really the top lane champion. And overall they have checked in many positions on the draft wishlist, while the lanes here are mostly okay. Top lane could become somewhat of the annoyance with the Gnar getting, and he doesn't even really need the ganks, just the pressure from Udyr to really spam his abilities into Camille's face is often enough to get a good lead in the lane, and then may snowball that further on. In the mid games, T1's champions here have a good edge, especially if the Taliyah, as we expect here, is able to support a lane quite efficiently. Their 5v5 are not as explosive as you might expect from these very red champions, as they have not too much DPS here besides Teddy, who needs many items as Zaya always did. Their AP carries here need to position very carefully against the engage, as they are also more on the shorter range and also have the explosive tools here, so they need to make sure their combos are hitting onto Sandbox. So T1 is not really looking for too explosive fights, but watching and with Sandbox maybe even waiting for a failed engage and then to punish that like a counter engage from T1 is quite powerful. So Sandbox here, as I went over the laning matchups already, they look for smaller skirmishes and picks early to get the leads, at least in the vision department, to then have greater threat from their multiple engage options that could look for different angles in these team fights, as T1 with only one frontliner have a bit of a softer belly. Yes, champions like Zaya are a bit more self-dependent here, but still with multiple threats, if Sandbox is getting the vision lead, especially if they can get first into the rivers here and control some of these choke points, their comp really shines through that. If they're not able to get these tempo plays to get to the dragon or the river first, champions like Victor and Gnar, they look quite worse. And you may notice that I've not talked too much about the Udyr here. Again, he is not too strong of a champion in these later fights, especially considering that T1 has picked such a hard comp to engage into. He has to be somewhat of an early support for Sandbox to especially try to get these leads for their team to set up the the areas where they wish to fight, and maybe hindering Taliyah in helping the top side, so at least they have the Gnar being kind of a pest here, because obviously Gnar, he's a bit harder to get away from. Rakan, if he's messing up, he can be locked up. Gnar, he's often becoming so tanky that he can't really be one-shotted in one rotation should the Mega Gnar really want to dive into a team. So that's the avenue Sandbox is looking for. Obviously there's a small issue here in the draft where they try to go for the Udyr Orianna combo, but then didn't get the Orianna. So there's a small issue here in their planning, where they were showing a weakness or a crack in their armor, and T1 pierced here. Even though Closer is not the main Orianna player, he is more known for the assassins here. But still a good pickup from T1 here to counter this, and they were able to win game number 1, nearly throwing the game in the end if you have watched it. And it was quite the clown fiesta in the later 10 minutes. Overall, the coordination here was a bit off in the broader scheme for T1. Later on here, the direction that Sandbox was going, they got some of the fights and some of the setups that they wanted in their plan, and we saw how good their team comp could work in these specific situations. But without the lead early on, and being on the back foot for most of the time in the game, and they were mostly able to hold on so long due to T1's mistakes. In the end, T1 though weren't able to throw the game completely and pick up game number 1, as they usually do now. Coming to game burn 2 now, with T1 being in the lead. So we start with the ban phase. So we see Samira, Xayah and Renekton again. So adding Taliyah's Xayah to the list. Well, they should know that they can't really ban our Teddy. Now the Aphelios is not banned here, so at least this option is being open. And again, we should know that a player with his career length has many picks in his arsenal. On the other side, KeSpa, Olaf and the Taliyah, obviously T1 not making the mistake of leaving Taliyah open. Olaf again, many teams ban him, T1 especially, and against Kroko that's also understandable. He showed quite some performances at the KeSpa Cup or already in the LCK here. But one may notice here that the Spartan, the Pantheon, has not been banned here by T1, which is a bit unusual as they often have high priority to get the pick themselves or to deny it from the opponent. Here now it comes through for Sandbox, an aggressive pick for their jungler to have some more impact. But one wonders maybe if T1 has a counter pick in mind, as again they have left him open never before. They answer though first here with a Kalista Orianna combination, so getting the Kalista early on, not sure directly why. It's not a contested pick, but for Teddy, she has a high win rate and a high play rate for him. Getting the early aggression here, quite powerful. And she locks away some of the scaling options that have been not banned yet, as she obviously would destroy them very, very strongly into the early games here. And a player like Teddy having such a great win rate with her, even though he was playing on Jhinra in the very late years. And the Orianna here again for Closer. Didn't look too great. His performance was more on the lackluster side. He was more invisible, and he's obviously not a mid laner as accustomed to the pick as Faker. But now here with the Fate's Call from the Kalista, he has some more setup for his ultimates to get some nice wombo combo here. And with the Pantheon elected. Orianna might be a bit in danger here. She's immobile, and the point and click stun from the early game jungler Pantheon could be a problem here against the immobile dancer. But we see Sandbox goes again for the victor for Fate into the matchup here. So returning this rematch. And we will more see of the AFK pushing and farming later on again here. Especially the victor into the Kalista, even more so than the Xayah from last game. His range, his W will be very dangerous for her. And Teddy has to find a way to play around that. Accompanying the victor pick is the Gnar for Summit again. And this time he is being blind picked, so Kana can now look for a favorable matchup in the top lane. The best now would be electing it now here before the second ban phase. And the Gnar obviously has some nice teamfight synergies here that could endanger these main carries from T1 that are short range and that are often also on the immobile side here. So the combination of champions Sandbox has elected already have early game power, mid game power and late game power, while also having skirmishing and team fighting, so not too bad. Also having wave clear. The frontline potential is also being established quite a bit, but they are still with an open bot lane that can give the team a bit more identity. So overall their first rotation, not in terms of the quality of the picks, Gnar is not the most great pick and most handsome pick, but overall what they have here combined, it's a bit or more on the solid side. T1 here electing the Udyr instead of the top lane counter. A bit strange. We now see KeSpa playing with him. He has the Orianna now in contrast to Kroko from the first game. And the pick has not really proven himself too much. So maybe here he has the advantage in the 1v1 against the Pantheon. By the way, I believe that the Udyr should win most of the time. His early base damage and in the terms of consistent base damage is just very strong. And also if he gets the W off for the turtle form, the shield also will help diminish Pantheon's burst. Overall the matchup should be also quite good in the farm department. Udyr's new Phoenix form shreds through the jungle camps, while Pantheon he has a limited amount of AoE clear. So I guess actually in this case the Udyr is a better pick than usual, and one might want to consider looking into this matchup in the future with other side lanes. Maybe then the Udyr can become somewhat of a counter pick. Obviously Pantheon's aggression against other champions but the Udyr, in this case the Orianna and a potential top laner, is obviously greater than what the Udyr can do to these solo lanes of a usual team that he's facing. Against here Victor and Gnar, not really targets the Udyr can reliably get to. So even while the Udyr is winning in the 1v1 in the jungle, again he's not really shining otherwise. But moving on to the ban phase here, Camille and Gangplank are gone for the Gnar matchup. So Kana lost the chance for an unrestrained top lane pick. But there are many options into the Gnar. The Gangplank would have been quite nice, also helping getting the Victor a bit out of the finds with the zoning. The Camille in the Gnar, again it's a matchup that can go either way. Here on the red side the Gnar is obviously a bit more in danger. Again the Udyr probably now in the top side, so will spend more time in the top lane. On the other side the Alistair and the Leona, both very aggressive supports that can dive onto the Orianna and Kalista. In the second phase of picks, we see the Irelia being elected by T1. Usually one would assume Irelia for T1 would go for closer. He already has the Orianna, so this is going for Kana into the top lane. So yeah, Irelia, one of the few champs that can fight the Mega Gnar in his basic form. So historically has been regarded as a good pick in this matchup. So yeah, kinda nice here. In teamfights, it's a bit difficult against these champions Sandbox has elected. So yeah, T1 is probably looking for more skirmishes and brawls early on to snowball the pick, then to maybe overcome the dangers and the problems a Victor alone could offer against an Irelia. On the other side, Sandbox is doubling down with a certain type of team comp that T1 kinda elected in the first game with the Jhin and the Tahm Kench. They have completed their turtle mode here. Engaging into Jhin Victor is just very, very difficult, and they have the support of Gnar and the Tahm Kench by their side, which further adds on to the difficulty, especially here for T1, where they have no true engage here elected, no hard engage, no Malphite ultimate or anything of that sort. So yeah, that's very, very hard. And the range advantage that comes with these champions as well is concerning to say the least. For Udyr, he will be completely chunked before he can even get into auto attack range, if at all. And the Tahm Kench here on the side, obviously adding to the frontline potential of their team. While in situations where the Gnar is in mini form, he's trying to set up a flank or a split push, and in these cases they have at least the Tahm Kench here as some frontline and some tanking away from what T1 here has. His protection with his Devour against the shotgun combo or the Wombo combo of the Kalista Orianna is also kinda unique and nice. Obviously, there's a reason why he's often picked with Jhin in the over the years. Moon Staff support could have worked as well in this situation, but this would obviously if you would imagine a teamfight situation, let's just draw some axes here on the screen. So this is Pantheon. These would be Victor and Jhin looking behind in the backline. Gnar looking for something here from the side, maybe in a flank, right, threatening Mega Gnar. And Tahm Kench would be kinda here, lingering here, back and forth, right, being a tank and also keeping close to his backline. But if it would be Moonstone support, well, depending on which obviously, that would also be further back to put the shields onto their targets. So the way Sandbox would fought the team fights would be very different, and their belly of their team, if you want to say it like that, would be way softer, because it would mainly be the Pantheon who may have the shields of that Moonstone support, but the team fights would be very, very difficult for a more newer team. I would often not recommend such no tanks or one tank team comps. It's risky, and even though Moon Stuff is very overpowered, to force it and get into these situations, I don't recommend it. Just play what you're comfortable with in most cases for the pro games, and then later on practice something else. The W's again, especially here early on, can be quite helpful at the end of the spring season, where obviously the matches will be tougher because the enemies have figured out their synergies as well. For T1 here we get the Neko pick in the support position, and I'm sure many people are quite surprised about this, but it's actually a very, very sick pick. There is a Korean solo queue player, I'm not really sure if I remember his current rank. That might have changed over the last days. He's like rank 35, I think, or was, right? And yeah, he's smurfing with Neko support. It's really damn strong in lane, has advantages in the mid game with her like high base damage and really efficiency in terms of like just needing 1 or 2 items. And yeah, also the fact that she's not really known, even though there's this one guy. It's just one guy playing her in solo queue. So yeah, many people like Leo and Effort might not have played against this guy, so they might not be experienced with the Neko support. And even if they did, it's unlikely that they did it so often that they've become accustomed to it. As such, I am very confident that she has this surprise factor here as well. Sadly though, it seems Carrier has not practiced it too much, or maybe had some different idea. He started Q here in the game instead of E. He used the Q to check the bottom brush in the early game, and I know the map is not the new one here with the enclave, but it should be fine. So he used Q to check the brush, which is obviously a wider spell than the E, but the E start is usually the better one for the Neko support, as the E, it's quite strong in lane. The root is increased by the champion and minions it passed through. So very, very unique for the bot lane, where often you hide behind the creeps, obviously, to block spells. So not going into too much detail of the Neko support here, as she's also more short range and squishy. Her setup with the Kalista ult and her own ult work quite nicely. Otherwise, especially here against this very difficult to engage comp of Sandbox, Neko would struggle probably. With the Kalista help though, she can get her ult off more reliably. And she's also helping in this case with the pressure. So T1 has like 5 damage threats to consider, and an AoE Neko ult that is getting thrown into Sandbox faces obviously it creates space and alleviates pressure from the Kalista and the Orianna, to get more room, more space to work with, and then dish out their damage in the wake of the Neko ult, which is either rooting many people, forcing the Devour from Tahm Kench, or forcing flashes in some scenarios as well. Especially here in the river, one has to consider the thickness of the river is like as thick or as large as the diameter of the Neko ult. So that's also very, very nice here, because the dragons and the Baron obviously are places where Sandbox has to come a bit out of their shell to meet T1 at these fights. But here, going now over it a bit more here in detail, mentioning Sandbox already, that comp very safe, difficult to engage to for T1, unless they are like super fat obviously and can tank a bit of the upfront damage they get into their faces. The Neko here again, the X factor that can be quite surprising, and with her CC hurt them quite a lot. Their conditions with the Gnar here in the top lane are also not too optimal, as the Aurelia could deal with the Gnar if Liv left alone, or if Kana's Aurelia is on point. So unless T1 players play for Sandbox win conditions, there is no way for them to really force the game to turn, or to set up a reliably lead on their own, with having Pantheon as the main bridge in the early game to get some deterrence for the Udyr to support his own lanes and set up a larger lead in the bot lane. Obviously Kalista Neko would have a lead here, but Pantheon can decide either he's helping his bot lane to not lose too hard or not too fast, or he's helping now against the Aurelia matchup, which could be quite troublesome. Obviously Kana is not known really for his Aurelia, but it's often unsure what's happening in some scrims, and Irelia, being a kind of important pick for T1, as close as valuing it highly, they should have practiced it, as they can obviously flex Irelia in multiple positions. And I'm sure Sandbox will also even more underestimate the Neko, and Pantheon is all their last hope here to close holes that will happen, or will be cracks in their turtle shell, potentially in the top lane, very likely in the bot lane here, and even here the Pantheon as their own early game carry and focus has to watch out for the Udyr, because in the 1v1 fights he should lose. He should lose. On the other side for T1, so Irelia back in the days, again regarded as quite the good pick into the Gnar, so Kana should do fine here. The jungle Udyr, who beats Pantheon, as I said, in the 1v1, could obviously help and set up for a good 2v2 here. Yes, they have similar damage with the 80 from their auto attack with some AP on hit, so Gnar can get the shielded blade caps and then be a bit more fine here. Still, getting a lead in the top lane should not be too difficult, just for Cass to visit there once or twice, and then spend most of the time protecting the Kalista and Neko, who obviously want to take the tower and push their lead, which they obviously need to snowball in the mid game here, as they will get outscaled by Sandbox comp here. Remembering Udyr with the support of a strong bot lane can obviously, maybe he's just set out to ignore top lane, which obviously will result in Gnar likely winning this lane, but then he can completely take over the bot side with the Drakes, which the Drakes could help T1 to stay a bit more relevant for longer. Again, their comp is not scaling too well, especially into sandboxes, so getting the Drakes here, which obviously prolong the game, or prolong T1's relevance in the game here. In the end, T1 was able to win the game here, especially off the bot lane snowball. Top lane was quite a mess, and the game was a bit more cleaner for them. Some individual misplays here again, especially as I mentioned the top side, and they were ready to hand over the game at some points, but cleaner team play, and overall the team play was a bit more disciplined. The coaches seemingly have found some good advice after the mess that was the late game of game number 1. So here, looking back, T1 now winning 2-0 for the first time in 2021. Overall, going over what we saw here, looking quite unstable, more like a talented solo queue roster at times. The team play in 2v2 skirmishes, or the bot lane here, the Microcosmos, was obviously quite fine, very talented players. In the grander scheme of things, there were rotational errors, you saw the hesitation, and they probably weren't talking in some situations, which is a bit expected after these weekly roster rotations. Kana also seems to perform worse and worse every week, sadly, but there's nothing to be done about this yet. There's no substitute coming for a while. The Teddy switch, also a bit strange. Gumayushi was certainly not the issue, especially performance wise here. He was very on top. Closes Orianna, as I mentioned, very lackluster. Not as good at the GOAT, obviously here. And with his shockwaves, on more random targets, mispositioning in fights, damage shots at the end of the game were also not really in his favor. In the bot lane, carrier, he seemed a bit off. He seemed to be on a different page as the rest, and with most of his teammates changing from week to week, it's hard to be on one page with every iteration, as yeah, he's the only support and Kana the only top laner, so these two have been in every team here, and getting new teammates obviously will add to the confusion in many cases. But that's it now for it. Yeah, this will conclude the review for the first series between Liv Sandbox and T1. Hope you had fun and a good time here with me. In the playlist or in the description below you can find the draft review, which goes over the KT and T1 series. Anyway, what do you think about this T1 iteration here? Personally, without knowing who practiced with who and which synergies are so and so, Kana, he needs some help now. He's a bit desperate in his plays, making mistakes that he would never really do last year. And he can't really take a break or a short cooldown now, as Zeus is not old enough yet. Cass or Elim, honestly Cass did look good, but that was only 2 games and the opposition here was easier than the Canyon and Clit that Elim faced. So I would depend that choice on the better synergy with the mid or top laner. Talking about the mid lane, while Closer was fine against KT and Hungwa Life, Faker's numbers against tougher opponents like GenG and Downward Kier, and his veteranship, which was clearly needed today, on top of his usual level of play, the X factor that he has, along with the obvious bias someone like me has here, make him my preferred candidate. It's just Closer looks fine, but he's not too fleshed out, and the question is do you give him now more playtime and experience, but what for? In the meaningful games, would you rather start Closer over Faker, or is this now for the time when someday in the far future Faker retires and then Closer becomes the new mid laner? So that's also a question that T1 has to ask themselves in the mid lane position here. Also for the bot lane, similar to the jungle, Gumayushi was amazing. Teddy here with the 2 games, also quite good. And the last time we saw Teddy, by the way, was the playoffs against a Freak of Freaks. So here now, after a long time, we see him again. In the end, they're both incredibly skilled, and it's sad that we only get to see one of them. Maybe T1 is getting the idea of having Teddy and Gumayushi play at the same time. Maybe one plays mid lane or whatever. I don't know. And carrier obviously the only support, and maybe the choice for the AD carry should come from the better synergy with carrier. So in the end, T1 needs to try more and practice more with the right setup of players. And there would be a great chance for 5 versus 5 maybe, if they found the right setup here, with obviously having a B team in either iteration that is on a great caliber that would overall alleviate the team level as a whole. But now that's it. Please stay safe. Have a great day. Till next time. Bye.